Well, I only really know the history of what would be around this area. As far as I'm aware, it was the oldest navigation canal system in the UK, built by the Romans. And when it was built and originally used, it was the busiest trade hub in Europe. That was before building the Thames. I believe, I'm not entirely sure, but this was back in the Saxon era. During the time, they have used the Pie Wipe as a stop-off with an honesty box where people could then stop, have a rest on their way, help themselves to a drink, move on down to the Brayford Pool, where I believe a lot of trading was happening during around that area as well, sort of like the herbs, spices, I assume silks, I'm not entirely sure. I would say back in the day it was the motorway of its time. It was the only way where large items could be moved, mostly by horsepower along the canal. Over the years, the canal system has obviously changed since such items as trains has now become a big thing. Obviously, international trains, trade with planes, obviously vehicles, lorries, all these things have taken away from the canal. So nowadays, you're looking more along the lines of it being purely recreational use. Back in the day, the main access used to be the waterway, it used to be the towpath, which is now still a towpath, but it's been developed. It's been developed for use more with bicycles, walkers, horses. We get no end of horses still come here now. They all pile up in the car park and everyone storms in for a drink and then leaves. So yeah, as far as the road goes, we manage the road, but that area belongs to the farmers that own the farmland. But we maintain the road as well, so it's only a small track as well. So when you've got a busy Sunday or a busy day, you've got twice as many people trying to come out, there's twice as many people trying to come in, lots of pullovers. It can take you 15 minutes to get down the road, and sometimes you might be better off on a boat. Yeah. What do I think about the canal system? Well, for us, it's obviously has a benefit with tourism because everyone likes to come to us, especially because of the location. What you're seeing here today is an average day, really, not what we would class as a busy day. During a busy day in the summer, everyone seems to attract to water. So we have hundreds of people outside, people queuing for tables. There's also, which comes from the Brayford, is what's called the Brayford Bell, which is a double-decker tourist ride, if you like. While you're on the Brayford Bell, it tells you the history of Lincoln and it tells you the history of the canal system. Along with Brayford Bell, a couple of years ago, they added a little water taxi, I think called Paul's Legacy, which take up to, I imagine, about 6-8 people just for shorter, quicker journeys. And quite often, when we have weddings here in the teepees, we have 3 large teepees. The Brayford Bell or Paul's Legacy or people's boats will bring the bride and groom and their wedding party up as well. So for us, it has great benefits in the sense of if we were just stuck in the middle of town, there's no draw as opposed to, I suppose, our home cooking, and there's not many places that do that anymore. But on the side of that, I'm not going to lie, without the canal we wouldn't be as busy now. As I say, I think it's just the way that time has gone on. They're no longer as important as they used to be. As they used to be a lifeblood of the country. Now they're more of a subsidiary. It's a holiday time. People will hire a canal boat, come on holiday, whereas before it was solely to increase the profits of the country. Now it's more designed around tourism and leisure, and also some of it is privatised now, whereas before it always used to be national. Well, you've got the Canal and River Trust. They generally maintain the canal. They maintain the moorings. Some of the areas are private. I think this stretch here was actually sold last year. However, then the Canal and River Trust, they hire or they rent it off the owners. But then they maintain the canal, they dredge the canal, they trim back the trees, obviously because all these things are, the tourism uses it, that's where they get their money from. People renting out boats, they're going on tourists, they get it from the river licenses. People fishing, again, I believe they've recently sold the rights to fishing as well. So there's different incomes from it, but in comparison to what it used to be, not at all. It'll never be as useful as it was unless they ban flights and trains and lorries, because it will never serve that same purpose where it has a national interest. The only way you can really improve it, in my opinion, is more communities coming together and owning the canals themselves. So if you had, let's say, a village that owns as a community trust to own that area, they would then maintain it themselves, or at least be able to, I suppose, get the right people in to maintain it if they haven't got the equipment. But it seems like, if you look at the area of the Fossdyke that's around Saxilby in the village there, it's very nicely maintained. There's hanging baskets, things like that. It looks very nice. But I think as far as what it is now, I mean the Fossdyke anyway, and not referring to any of the other canals, but there's been big investment in other canals around the country as well of late. It is just a sense of tourism is very important to this country, probably more so now than it ever was. And along with that is industries such as our own, such as any little shops up and down the canal. So I think if everyone does their own little bit to look after their areas, I mean, we tend this bit out here as well, and the reason we do that obviously is to look nice for our customers when they arrive, and to encourage more to come as well. I don't think there are really many problems facing boat owners. I mean, the canal system as itself has some great facilities, you know, where there's laundrettes, there's already shower facilities, there's already places to service your boats to get fuel, you know, for instance Burton Waters down there in the marina. There's already plenty of amenities there for them already. The only thing I would say is there's maybe a lack in tourist moorings. You know, for instance, when we're busy in summer, you would imagine that boats are a big part of our trade. They're probably only less than 5%, because a boat only carries so many people, it takes up so much space. So everyone, you know, it's a misconception from our residents to go, oh, I bet you get a lot of trade from the boats. The boats look great. Some of them are far too big for the canal, you know, the big gym palaces. But they arrive, we can have 6, 7, 8 boats here, but they're not individually on one mooring. They'd be tied up to another boat, tied up to another boat. So I'd say, yeah, maybe just a lack of tourist moorings or temporary moorings. I mean, out here you have a temporary mooring where you can only stay for 2 days. Obviously, you want people to keep moving about the canals. You want them to enjoy the full stretch all the way down through the Glory Hole, through Lincoln and everything. So I'd say I don't think there's a lot to improve. The facilities are already there, maybe just some tourist moorings. I think the only way the canals have changed for boating enthusiasts would be the fact that there are more facilities. Back in the day when they were purely industrial, it was just a case of a waterway with the lock systems, which gets you from A to B, be able to carry a lot of weight, whereas now there are things like refueling stations, there are shower facilities, there's extra things to make it more pleasing for the tourists, you know, like for instance us. Many years ago when this was originally, it was a farm building, do you know what I mean? Now it's here to help service the canal, you know, we're here to supply home cooked food, to supply real ale, you know, it's somewhere to look forward to stop at the end of the evening. So you may have been moving all day, and then your plan as you're looking at the canal system might be, well, we'll stop there tonight, we'll have a meal there, have breakfast maybe, and then in the morning go off. And quite often they're gone before, you know, we're even open in the morning. We're open from 6:30, so, you know, sometimes in the summer they're up really early, they want to get going, they want to make most of their holiday. So as far as changes, I think that's really it. It's just what has developed around the canals for tourism. I mean, even if you look in the Brayford now, I mean, the university's brought a lot of new industry and new leisure with it, as in your if you like, your plastic food outlets like your ZZ's, your pizza outlets and things. There's a lot of those in the Brayford pool. So if you do more up down there when you are on holiday, there's plenty of places that you already recognise, you identify with. You think, we'll go to Ask, we'll get a pizza, we'll go to ZZ's, you know, that sort of thing. So people, no matter where they are in the country, they already identify with them. They think, right, then tomorrow we'll stop there and we'll have dinner there. So they don't necessarily have to survive on their own little boat. They can quite often get off, walk into Lincoln, go and see the castle, you know, learn the history, or the Lincolnshire Life Museum, as I was saying. You know, that covers loads of information about what you can find out.